Day 7 YouTube jail. What a time it's been. Life actually never changed. Oh, still got word out, still got the voices heard. I just like something like 30 or 40,000 downloads the podcast, and that's without really being able to promote it too much anywhere else to show people where to find the people's voices. Maybe we'll take care of that tomorrow. But today, I'm going to take the girls to a special place they've never been before, another slice of the real world they haven't seen. And I think I'll probably take the cameras there, and if I can, I'll take some time out in video to take all you there with me too. But anyway, in the meantime, a little off topic, but just for a minute, it's fresh in the mind. I watched a show last night in bed. Went to bed, we flicked on the Netflix, and we're just scrolling through it, and there's some show. I think it was The World's Most Wanted or something like that. But anyway, what this one segment was, and this is possibly something that everybody should hear about, it was the genocide in Rwanda and how this came about. I'm going to share this with you so you can think up some similarities you may be aware of in the world today as to compare it to what went down and how it went down in Rwanda, all right? So what it was a genocide. It was two tribes, the Tutsis and the Hutus, and there's another group called the TWA or something, TAW, another group. But the main two tribe names were the Hutus and the Tutsis. And what happened was, and back then, you know, these people, they didn't have iPhones, they didn't have the internet, everybody had a radio. It was a radio station. The radio station was the main source of wide-scale information available to the people. Right? Now follow me closely. So what happened was a businessman, purportedly one of the most wealthy people in the entire country. Well, he was a member of the Hutus, and he hated the Tutsis. So what did this man do? They actually had paper trail documents. They showed the receipts of him purchasing, with his money, literally thousands of pounds of machetes. And he made those machetes available to the Hutu people in the community, in the city. Okay? Follow me? He did this. And then he had access to the one and only radio channel, which the radio channel was the main source of information / knowledge being dispersed amongst the entire city, the entire country, the community. Follow me? And then he started planting negative rhetoric about the Tutsis. Quote, even the Tutsi children are our enemies, they will grow up and they'll kill all of us. Just stupid shit. But either way, it worked. And unfortunately, it showed graphic video clips of what went down and how it went down. These people, regular people in the community, regular people in the city. Well, they went out and got hammers and baseball bats and clubs and bows and arrows and spears and knives, predominantly machetes. A handful of them had guns. They made makeshift, shitty-looking, stupid roadblocks, and they stopped every single innocent human being that was just trying to go get some groceries, going into town to do whatever, get some food for the family, take the kids to school. And they showed stopping as an example. They stopped this one woman. She looked to be about in her mid-40s. And they translated what these regular guys, all ages, from kids all the way up to seniors, were yelling at her, "You're Tutsi." And you could see her going, no, I'm not a Tutsi. I just don't have any ID with me today. Right? So what do? The guy instantly turns around, swings his machete, and sinks it deep into her Achilles tendon and severs it. That's in the back of your ankle, if any of you are familiar with that. And that was the go-to move. The second they decided that you were bad, without even knowing for certain, they just went and chopped you in the Achilles tendon, dropped you so you couldn't run, and they went and hacked her to death. And they also did this to, they say, upwards of 500,000 people died for certain, and possibly 800,000 people were slaughtered in the streets. And what it boiled down to was, it was all because of the person with the most money, the businessman, who they also stated, you know, it's the businessmen, it's the people with all the money. They don't even have to yell or scream. They don't get dusty, they don't get dirty, they don't do anything. All they had to do was finance the weapons. Then they had absolute control of the source to get out knowledge or word to the people, to the community. And they kept on pumping it through there to the people, to the community, turn each other on each other. Next thing you know, 500,000 people got slaughtered. Half a million innocent people got slaughtered. And that man's still running free today, I believe. I think we shut it up before we even get to the end of it. But that guy made it in Switzerland with his family. And Switzerland didn't want the grief, didn't want to put him on trial, so they bought him a plane ticket, allowed him time to get all of his millions of dollars out of the Swiss bank, and then they shuffled him off to some other place on the planet. Didn't even give a shit. Anyway, the point I'm making is that is a clear example of how it works today. The people with the money have the control. They control the main source avenue that is used to share knowledge with the people, which is us, which could possibly be what? Challenge yourself and think about who or what's the main source of knowledge sharing today? Answer that question. And then possibly find out for yourself and see if there's anything similar there. Is there any similarities in that story and what's going on today? Is there any businessmen that you know of with a whole pile of money that could possibly control some sort of a narrative, that could possibly control the information flow to us, the people? Is there any similarities there at all in that story and today's story with us in our societies? You know, I got suckered into turning on, entering Facebook world today, and it shows the feed. Was it short videos or something? Possibly. I don't know, the first half a dozen stupid little videos were regular everyday folk, people in North America today. Shows somebody blowing a gasket on somebody, screaming and bashing on their window, screaming and yelling, and they're on fire and they're angry about something. The next video was some woman sitting on the hood of a car and would not get off of it because she was angry and blowing a gasket at somebody she didn't know. Showed another senior couple being attacked and harassed because they had some sticker on their car. And that was a video of that. And what it was, you know, you hear of Facebook or YouTube or whoever trying to, you know, they're trying to police and govern any negative rhetoric that might come out via their platforms to all of us, misleading information. But meanwhile, when I got suckered and lured into going into Facebook world, the first 5 or 6 videos that Facebook was allowing to be posted was people in the streets of cities in North America going at each other's throats over absolute ridiculousness. There wasn't one solid excuse there for any of those human beings to be acting irrational, angry at each other. And Facebook was allowing that to be posted up numerous times. That was the first minute and a half of what I saw with my eyeballs and heard with my ears in Facebook world. But meanwhile, these people are consistently trying to convince you and I that they are policing the information flow to make sure nothing's harmful. Anyway, thought I'd share that little tidbit today. It's kind of embarrassing. I find myself a little bit ashamed. Because the good guy army is standing by and watching all this go down. Good people are standing by and allowing this to go down. Good people are standing by and allowing people who have been put themselves into the positions of so-called leadership. More pointing towards, as an easy example, is the person who's been put in to be the main leader in our country is using hate words. It's on video. It's clear and simple. He's using hate speech against the people of Canada today, and that's getting shared through all the platforms. Anyway, so I'd share that. That is what's going on today in the civilized world in North America. People are at each other's throats for what? Answer that question. I don't need to say it out loud. Answer that question. If you had to do a little school essay on the genocide of Rwanda and how it came about and how those people went at each other's throats, their neighbors' throats, if you had to do a little school essay on the similarities of the Rwanda genocide, how it came about, who financed it, and how they were able to take absolute control of the only radio station to pit the people against the people. Now, if you had to find similarities in North America, what's going on today, Let's take about 7.5 minutes out of your lifetime and try to find any similarities. Alright? That's all I got to share on that topic today. Now we're going to get some voices heard on apparently my last day of jail. My last day of jail, YouTube jail, for apparently sharing information on the internet that's harmful to the people. But meanwhile, there's a 99.6 to 99.8 average approval rating on this channel, on the YouTube channel. And that's out of over 5 to 7 million views per month. 99.5% out of 100% approval. Do you think there might be a little bit of an alarm bell going off there for the people? Possibly, maybe. And if so, what are you going to do about it? That's my question to the people today. What are you going to do about it? You know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to be bullied, I'm not going to be pushed, and I'm not going to stop speaking the truth. It's just not going to happen. Okay, what do we got? I'm going to share the voice of the people, word for word. Take from what you will or leave it. But you have the choice here. Here on this channel, any channel I share information, you have the choice whether or not you want to hear it. You have the choice not whether you want to take it as helpful or not. And you have the choice whether or not you want to share it. Hi Steve, my name is Daryl. I'm 56 years old. I want to thank you for all you do to help people with their lives, especially your friend that is fighting cancer. And you asking for prayers for her. And that's what it's all about, looking out for people who are fighting the good fight. And yes, it is. And here it goes. The sighting I had was when I was about 4 or 5 years old. The time was in the late 60s, and my parents both said that a panther would scream and scratch on the windows that night. But it was not what they thought it was, because I saw what it was. It had climbed onto the house, and it leaned over the edge of the roof and was looking at me. And it has the most evil face expression I've ever seen in my life, and that includes the present. The only thing I thought it had to be was the devil. You know, I was so scared that I pulled the blanket over my head and started praying to Jesus to protect me. And it could have stuck its hands through the screen and grabbed me. Thank God it didn't. I've never told my family about what happened that night because they would not believe it. Still today, my parents talk about the panther that screamed and scratched on the windows at night back then, but I know what it was. It was a younger Sasquatch by its physical size. End of story. Daryl, thanks for sending that in, and that's pretty upsetting that it's a common one, right? Common theme. The child reports to the parents of the family what they saw. They don't believe them. Unfortunate is what it is. But if you feel like it, not that it would make much of a difference, but if you feel like it and you want to email in more about that sometime, email us back in with a description of what you saw, what that face looked like, if you could. Daryl's note, it's not that important though, okay? But if you feel like it, go ahead and I'll share that description with everybody too, all right? Because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people curious as to exactly what it was that you saw. What do we got here? There's another one, titled, Another Encounter. So these pictures that I'm sending you, you might like. I'm the gentleman that written a little about the tobacco. These pictures were taken last year from where I camp. And what I mean by that is I live in the tent in the woods of Colorado. I've had bad luck for the last 7 years. I haven't been able to get out of it. From an injury to losing my parents, from a divorce to having the dogs being killed, this is where I ended up. In these pictures, you'll be able to see a dot. I took this picture because it was a fresh snowfall that evening, and this is at 7 in the morning. It was a beautiful sight outside. After taking the picture, I was looking at the photo and thought maybe it was a piece of dirt on the lens or something like that, but I noticed that it was silver in color. I zoomed in, and this is what I saw. Looking at more of the pictures of being zoomed in, I ended up counting 10 of these aircraft. I did send it to MUFON, and they finally replied about 4 months saying that it was a bug. I don't understand how it could be a bug with snow on the ground and at minus 17 degrees that morning, but I figured I'd at least share it with you and the other viewers. And as many have, we all see things more so at night than we do during the day. And there's the picture, and that's something else, all right. Bizarre. Yeah, bugs in minus 17. All right, I'll show you that. I'll share it in the video version of this. Will be shared on the YouTube channel this week. Sam, thanks for that. And Sam as well, I don't know if I could offer you up any advice at all. All I could say is just by the fact of what you were looking at in that photo shares with me and a lot of other people that there's still a lot of good going on in your world. You got to go up into those beautiful mountains and experience that fresh air and those sights and be in the real world. So that's a good thing, right? And bad luck is bad luck. It is what it is. We all have it. We all get it. We all got to bust through it. But just from looking at that pictures of the sites that you have available for you currently, that means there's a whole bunch of good going on still, all right? So focus on that good and train your mind to think about the good and stay positive, and it'll start to manifest and it'll flow and it'll get better and better, and you'll eventually put all that negative shit behind you, right? Because the thoughts we keep in our mind come true, no matter what they are. So good luck out there, man. Here we go. This is titled with a word that some people just get so frustrated that I don't pronounce properly. But take into account, I got a bit of a Canadian accent. Maybe that's got something to do with it. So here we go. This is titled Adirondack Encounter. Hi Steve, I don't care to share my name. I'm retired and I don't honestly give a shit what anyone thinks. Perfect. I just found your channel a few days ago and it prompted me to think back 25 years ago while bear hunting in northern New York. I decided to drive about an hour or so to the Adirondack Mountains and climb one of the 46 high peaks. It was early fall and bear season was open, so I took my 30-06 in case I got lucky. I also had a .357 revolver on my hip. The mountain I decided to climb is named Snowy Mountain. I started walking up the trail and the temps were probably 60 degrees, but at the summit, a few hours later, the rocks had icicles on them. Snowy Mountain, very appropriate. No snow though, too early. I set up my tent and just sat there amazed at the view. It seemed like I could see all the way to Vermont. Once the sun had settled below the horizon, I decided to call it a day. I crawled in my sleeping bag and laid my .357 next to my bed, just in case, I guess. I just started to drift off and I got this funny feeling. Kind of hard to explain, but something just wasn't right. I should back up at this time and tell you that when I signed in at the trailhead, I wrote that I was staying out for 7 days, descending off Snowy Mountain after day 1, then continuing on for the rest of the week. Back to the funny feeling, in that little 2-man tent, I was instantly on high alert. After a few seconds, I could definitely hear something very large walking outside the tent. There was only sparse tree growth on the top, and the tent was set out in the open. No sticks to snap or twigs to break, but I could distinctly hear heavy, measured footsteps out there. I grabbed my pistol and tried to remain calm. With my left hand, I slapped the tent wall and calmly, firmly said that I didn't want any trouble, but I was staying here, so just leave me alone. And after another minute or so, it became quiet. I tried to fall asleep, but didn't really get any. At first light, I got out of the tent and walked around it. Didn't really see anything. After a few minutes of looking, I decided my trip was over. I took the tent down, packed up my gear, and headed down the mountain. I'm guessing it was probably 4 or 5 miles to the car, but I think I made it in just over an hour. Since that trip, I've been going back to the mountains and only hunt locally. I don't know what was outside the tent that night, but I was honestly pretty spooked. As I sit here tonight writing this, I want to thank you for your channel. I only told my wife about it when I came home 6 days early. She thought I was nuts. Until now, I never told anyone. I recently turned 59 years old and have been medically retired from the military back in 2017 after being diagnosed with MS. I have a total of 30 years and 11 months of service, and I've been deployed all over, but that night I remember as clear as it happened yesterday. The part I can't wrap my head around is that if it was some other critter out there, I stayed out those mountains all those years for nothing. I stayed out of those mountains all those years for nothing. I can't even begin to imagine if I had actually seen something. I probably would have had a damn heart attack. Thanks again, Steve, for what you're doing. Hopefully someday we'll actually get to the bottom of all this. VR. Ted Daly. All right, man. Ted, thanks for that. And another veteran who's been deployed all over the world to scary, terrifying places, gunfire, people getting blown up in a million frickin' pieces. And meanwhile, the terror inflicted on his soul was way, way worse. It's endless. How many times that's been reported, right? Now I guarantee you that wasn't a raccoon out there taking a leak on your tent. For sure. And the voices keep flooding in. Michigan experience. Hi Steve, follower of your channel for over a year now, as well as Scott and David. I was just amazed at the commonality of the stories read, as well as how vast these experiences are both geographically and the amount of people with experiences. It's mind-blowing. I'm very curious if anyone else has had an experience like this in this area of Michigan. This occurred in May 2020 while hiking with my girlfriend. We were in the Haven Hill Estate area, which was owned by the Ford Motor Company family and is a 721-acre area inside the Highland Recreational Area, which is a larger wooded 5,900-acre state-owned DNR park in White Lake, Michigan. This park has all of Michigan's principal forest types within it, including tamarack and cedar swamps, beech maple forest, oak, hickory forest, and mixed hardwood forest. The area has remained largely undisturbed for the past 90 years and is just beautiful for hiking. The experience, let me state, while hiking I sometimes mention, as you do, telepathically in my mind to these beings, I don't wish to see you, I'm just here for a hike, please leave me alone. But this time I stated it out loud as I hiked with my girlfriend, who is only somewhat of a believer in these beings. We were talking about the Sasquatch when I made my verbal statement, we're just here for a hike, we don't wish to see you, please leave us alone. Maybe 2 or 3 minutes later we heard a loud rustling, which stopped us in our tracks. We spun around looking for where the sound was coming from, as what sounded like tree limbs cracking. Then suddenly a loud whoosh of a very large tree coming down with a thud. It was close, but we didn't actually see the tree fall or the dust cloud I thought we would see as it hit the forest floor. We saw nothing. It happened so fast. We were walking on an elevated ridge and the fall was quite possibly in the valley that we were above. The timing was unbelievable. Maybe it was just time for a very dead tree to fall. Maybe I've listened to too many of the stories you've shared. I think not, and I'm glad my wishes were respected, albeit with a bit of a tease, LOL. Maybe these beings have a sense of humor. I think maybe my girlfriend is closer to believing, but wants to see one for herself. I do not wish this for her or for myself. I don't need to see one. I trust they are out there. If she does ever see one, I hope it's not with me, and it's a positive experience, like many have had. I love your hikes, and I don't want that to change. I love our hikes, and I don't want that to change. Thank you for all that you're doing, Steve. It's such a very important work, and so many people need this support. God bless you and keep you safe. God bless you too, and keep you safe, Christine. And yeah, it is what it is. You know, it's like I said earlier. It's not whether people believe. It's not a belief. It's whether or not they can accept the available knowledge. It's whether or not they can accept the facts and the truth that are floating around right now. Not floating around, being directly delivered from tens of thousands of credible, good, hardworking, honest people. So, if you have it in you to shun all those people, that's unfortunate, but it's your choice. And I'm speaking out to everybody on the planet right now, not you. It's whether or not you can accept the facts, you can accept the honest truth or not. There's a whole lot of that going on right now. There's a whole lot of different ways that people have been manipulated to not believe each other. Not believe each other. What an easy way to control a crowd of human beings. Casting doubt upon them each so that they cast doubt upon each other. What does that leave? I mean, that just leaves the main knowledge source, the main messenger source, and that's it, right? Because nobody else is telling the truth. It's pretty sad. The good guy army better get their asses in gear and straighten this shit out. Straighten it out. Okay, it's titled Minnesota Story. Being an avid outdoorsman, I've been alone in some pretty remote places. Once in a while, I've been to places that give you that uncomfortable feeling. I had that same feeling every time I went to one particular lake. Around 1990, I was doing some fishing alone in northern Minnesota. That night I was camping in my topper in an old logging road logging landing surrounded by tall white pines. I was on a tall cot in the back of the truck sleeping on my side when suddenly something woke me up. It was a very dark night, so I just lay there quietly looking into the darkness, looking and listening, trying to figure out what woke me. Slowly, I became aware of something looking at me on the other side of the window. When I realized it was rhythmic breath steaming on the window, I jumped a little and it was gone. I felt very panicked, trying to overcome the urge to get the hell out of there. Honestly, I was too nervous to crawl out of the topper or I would have left that night. I spent a long, restless night looking from window to window, waiting for something to happen. When daylight finally came, I looked around for any sign of what I might have seen, but found no trace. I hiked down to the lake, packed up my canoe and gear, and left, even though I had planned to stay another day. The place has since been logged again. It doesn't have that same creepy vibe as years ago. I still find myself wondering if it was real or just a vivid dream. But deep down, I know. Chuck. Yeah, you know. That's not fun. That's not fun at all. That kind of reminds me of a time when, I don't know why, this memory is bolted in my head reading your experience. I don't know how well, I was in my 20s and I was driving from Lake Cowichan to Banfield, British Columbia, Vancouver out, and it was pissing rain. It was early spring, and stopped a few beers Friday night. I was doing a job out in Banfield, some work, and I had a 73 F-150 four-wheel drive, and I had a new alternator put in it, but the mechanic wired it on backwards in U-boat, which is on Lake Cowichan. Cowichan Lake, excuse me. So off I go. Pitch black, pouring rain, late, probably 11 o'clock at night, and I was on the Klanawa shortcut, we used to call it. Klanawa River, go ahead and Google that up, that's remote. That's where I was videotaping that elk hunting with my friend, island elk hunting last fall. And all of a sudden I was starting to lose my headlights, losing power, getting dimmer. I'm like, oh no. And we're talking the middle of nowhere, off of the main logging road where somebody would probably come along. I'm in the middle of freaking nowhere, where it's a hotbed of these sightings too, right? But I remember thinking, I'm not getting out of this damn truck. And I just could not believe that I was broke down on the Klanawa in the middle of absolute freaking nowhere. It's almost wintertime. There's gonna be nobody coming through there ever. And I don't know what time it was. And then, so I got whatever I had with me wrapped around me in the pickup truck, and I was trying to sleep. And then all of a sudden, somebody's banging on the door, banging on my window. Scared the absolute shit out of me. But it was what I figured out later on. It was some wood poachers, some shake block thieves. They had a big 1-ton truck loaded up with cedar shake blocks, and it was probably 2 in the morning, and I was blocking the bridge. And luckily, they gave me a jump start. Stupid chicken. And got me going. So what I knew I had, so I had to turn my truck around actually and head back to Lake Cowichan, and I couldn't turn on anything with electricity, otherwise it would have killed my motor. So I was literally, had my head out the window, watching the trees against the sky to keep me on the logging road. It was pitch black, driving in the rain at 2 in the morning all the way back. I think I was probably, I don't know, about maybe 30, 40 kilometers to go. Here comes my egg layer. But anyway, I'm gonna go on that note. This chicken's gonna drive me nuts, and I gotta get these girls out to a little piece of paradise. I'll talk to you guys later. I'm back tomorrow on YouTube.